Alright, so I'm going to do a short intro to Rhino 7. We also have Rhino 8 here in the robotics factory, and I'm just going to do sort of the basics of navigating in Rhino, some of the basic tools that you might need to use just to process 2D vectors. I use Rhino a lot as my kind of go-to way for processing 2D vectors because it is a CAD program. It's not like Inkscape or Illustrator, where it's primarily a graphics program and thus caters more towards graphics. Rhino caters towards CAD. However, it's more of a direct modeling program as opposed to a like inherently parametric solid modeling program like SolidWorks or Fusion 360, which while can be very powerful in their tools, can sometimes bog down when you're handling vector files and you're just trying to do stuff where you're laying out stuff into sheets or just like processing lines and things. I have found that neither SolidWorks nor Fusion do a very good job of processing vector work. Rhino is also a very powerful program for lots of other things. It does surfaces, it does 3D geometry, like 3D curve geometry very well. It doesn't have this problem that SolidWorks or Fusion might have where, you know, non-manifold surfaces or, you know, zero thickness surfaces are a problem because it is less parametric, it's less solid focused. So I do think it's actually a very worthwhile program to learn, and they have a very, very low cost subscription model. So and it's also a perpetual license, so that's kind of cool. So I'm just going to start out with basic navigation in Rhino. So this is Rhino. I'm using Rhino 7. Rhino 8 looks very much the same. You will have a bunch of different tools in here that, depending on what you have, actually this is a weird, I don't need this toolbar, but so you'll have different stuff. Hopefully, like if you select curve tools, it's going to change what's in the sidebar and what's in the top bar. You can also go up into here. I, though, tend to use the text commands a lot because anytime I'm in anywhere, I can just type in stuff like cell all, which would be select all, and it will sort of do that command. I find that to be very fast, and frequently if I'm not sure what I'm trying to do, I can try to look in and just type in what I think I need, and I might find it in the text command. So here we have sort of the 4-panel view. Rhino, again, is a 3D program, so you have perspective, right, front, top. You click into any of these, it will show that. You can also go between them. When you are in some of these, like top, front, or right, it will constrain sketches to be in plane, versus when you're in perspective, if you were to be sketching, it may be kind of anywhere in space, because it's not constrained to be planar. There are ways also to control that or make planes, etc. But for now, we're going to think about how we do vector processing for things like doing the fiber laser or the laser cutter. So top usually is where we want to be, so we'll click into that view. We have sort of our origin here. That doesn't matter so much where the origin is, but you know, it's there if you are using coordinate commands. And then as far as selection tools, so with many, as with many vector programs, not everything, if you select from left to right, it selects anything that's in the selection window. So this was fully in, this was fully in, but these ones weren't. Oh yeah, actually these are block instances, so they're grouped. And if you select from right to left, it selects anything that touches that selection window. You also see that I have this thing. This is called the gumball, and it is not on by default, but I find it to be very useful. So if you don't have the gumball, you can type in gumball, and then you either do on, off, you can toggle it. So if those underlined letters are the text version, so if I want to turn gumball off, now I won't have the gumball. I can still move things and click and drag, but I won't have that gumball already by default. So I like the gumball though, so I tend to turn it on. The other thing is that these are going to be, if you have grouped geometry, they're going to be coming in as what's called a block instance. Rhino does have grouping. Block instances is often how just it deals with other groups from other programs. So if we want to unblock these, we do a specific type. I think regular explode. Yeah, so regular explode works. You can also do explode block, and then select the blocks to explode. Sometimes also that text command will tell you what you need to do next if you don't have something selected. There's often a sequence that is necessary to get it to work. So now all these are exploded into blocks. Now if I went further, so you can still see that this is like a what's called like a polyline. It's a line that is closed. So you can see actually it's one closed curve added to selection. I can further explode this into segments. So we've got these different open curves. And that can be important when you are setting stuff up for the fiber laser or laser cutter, because typically you will want closed curves because you will want all of your segments to be joined, and then it will process it as one curve rather than process each of these as individuals. So if I wanted to rejoin, I could select all of the things here. I could say join. Now you'll see it did not join anything that was not touching. It'll only join up to a certain tolerance. If, say, they weren't entirely joined, so say I had this, and I'm just going to move this a little so it's not fully joined, I might be able to, we'll see if this actually works. Say I had, so I'm using the shift select to just add these. I'm going to join this one. Oh, okay, let's see that this didn't. So now I've got these different line segments up here and up here. So you can see that it's actually two, and I might close curve. Now it said curve is not closed, but now it says that the closed curve is added to selection. So that would be like how I might close a curve if I had a curve that was open, because before I was adding, and you can see it was one open curve added to selection. So Control Z, Control Y will be your redo and undo. Other things, so if you want to, over here is the layers. So if you want to have more layers, it's a good way of setting up things. So if I wanted to say this is the long one, I can right click this and I can change object layer. Now all of these things will be in the long layer. I can hide or show that. I can lock it so that it can't be selected. I could change maybe the display color of that if I wanted to, so I can do that. So you'll notice that did not change color, and that's because of its object properties. So outside of layers, we have properties up here. Now its display color, which is what it's showing on the screen, is black. I could also do it by layer, so it'll use whatever the layer's parent properties, and it will inherit those. You know, it might say varies if I had multiples. So here I might be like, okay, I want to make this continuous, and I'm actually also going to do hairline. If I wanted to make these different than what the layer was, oh, there's extras. I could say, actually, I want to make this black. These ones red. Layers can have sublayers, so I could add a new sublayer in here if I just wanted to put the holes in here. Shift, select. I can put these, change object layer, and make this black. And make this one red. And I could call these, L holes. And this one L out. L piece. I could add another sublayer if I wanted to for just this part. And then these kinds of things will inherit their parent layer. You could have just, like, this can also, that primary layer could also have geometry in it. It doesn't need to be in sublayers. Other things to help with navigation. So down here we have a couple of different ways of snapping. Snap, that's object snapping. We have grid snap and ortho. So if you can see, I'm going to turn my gumball off just for a second. If I have this, or say, I'm going to do a line. Right now it's in ortho snap, so it's going to snap to these orthogonal moves. I can press shift to unsnap to ortho if I'm outside of ortho snap, and I say I wanted to start a line. It'll be not ortho snapped, but if I press shift, then it will ortho snap. Right now we have the object snap on, so if I do, say again, I want to start a line, and I have, right now I've got end, I've got perpendicular, I've got quad, so if I want to do the edge of this, it will find the quads of this arc. It'll find, say, like the end of this line, so I can use that as a way to snap between sections. I use that also a lot for when I'm setting up maybe like a construction geometry, because one of the things is that you can't do things like you sketch in SolidWorks or Fusion 360 where you like add your dimensions after the fact or add your constraints after the fact. Rhino is a direct modeling, so you kind of, where you put it is where you put it. If I wanted to move this, say I wanted to, I'm going to say, let's make 2 of these, and they're going to be 1 inch apart. So the way that I'd probably do that would be, I would add a line, I would pick some point, and then I would say, all right, I want to make this 1 inch, so I'm going to type in 1. I think that I'm already in inches, so 1 inch would be 1 inch, but I could be in millimeters. I'll show you also how to do that. Is that really 1 inch? I'm going to do it. Right, so somehow this came in really crazy off scale. So that's a good time for me to do units. So if I just type in units, it shall go to the document properties page. I want to make this in millimeters. Thank you very much. I always get this wrong. No. Box. That seems to be wrong. No, they got bigger. Uh-oh. Huh. I'm gonna have to figure out, I don't remember what the millimeters. I think the thing is no. That is wrong, though. Actually, no, that's right. 10 millimeters. Oops, that's not millimeters. Okay, sorry, that's correct. Okay, so now we're in millimeters and everything's the right distance. So say I wanted to then move this by 1 inch. I could start a line, and I would use this as just a way of a reference. So I'd be 1 inch. And when I type that in, it should just, now it's like, all right, what direction do you want that to be in? Then I can say, I'm going to move this, and, oh, actually, I want to copy this. Control-C, Control-V, move, and then I'm going to move this from here to there. It snaps that, and now the distance between here and here is 1 inch. So I could use that kind of as construction geometry. If I have a bunch of construction geometry, maybe I would put that on a different layer. It'll kind of default to whatever layer is selected here. I could also like hide certain things if stuff is getting in my way. So say I had, you know, something here that I was doing, I can do the command hide, and that'll hide it. I don't really know how that affects when it prints, because that geometry is still there, but it won't be selectable until it's showed. Any other things that I want to show? There are a variety of other kind of curve edit options. A lot of times I'll be doing like trim or extend or split, so that's a good way. So if I wanted to say, I'm going to make a little rectangle for a tab, perhaps, on the fiber laser. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to use this to make a 20 thousandths of an inch tab, because I find that to be pretty good. I don't necessarily need to put that second amount, second length. And then maybe I wanted to move this from the middle of here, so maybe here to the quad here, and then I can move it up so that it's kind of squarely in the middle of this part. Now I can do trim. Trim, I would select the cutting objects, which is going to be this, and I'm going to select the object trim right in here. And now I have this part that has this little break for a tab. So that would be how I might set up tabs for a fiber laser, would be setting those up. I mentioned that Rhino you have sort of a history, and you can actually enable a model history so that you could kind of go back more easily. But I actually find the best way of just dealing with past versions is you just make a copy and you move it over somewhere else that you want to use if you need to maybe reference it again later. Because, again, Rhino is a direct modeling, it does not use nearly as much memory as something like Fusion 360 or SolidWorks, which are constantly doing all this parametric work to calculate and figure out that your model is still working. Rhino does not need to do any of that, and therefore it's very cheap to make more geometry. And that does make it very powerful in certain ways, and it makes it a certain kind of tool. So I definitely, find that Rhino is a good tool for these kinds of things. Some other stuff that might be helpful for fiber laser would be, maybe an offset. So you're going to say offset. My distance, right now I'm in millimeters, so I would use the D command to set my distance. And I'm going to say, I'm going to do 1 inches, and then, say side offset. So now I have this new piece. Another one that is powerful for laser cutting. So say I have a bunch of geometry, and I don't know, I was doing a bunch of work on it, I don't know, I might have duplicates. And if I bring this into the laser, it's going to cut this curve twice. So Rhino does have this great one just called cell dupe, which selects all the duplicates of the model space, and then you can easily delete them. Granted, it will not select things that are not actual duplicates. So if I have 2 lines on top of each other, but they're not the same, they don't have the same endpoints, they're just overlapping, Rhino will not necessarily catch that. I think there are some tools to catch that, but I am not as familiar with them. Sometimes, like if you explode, cell dupe, delete, and then rejoin, that will be a good way to deal with those. Yeah, I think that is, group. So you can group these, now they'll be selectable. It's different than a block, I can't tell you exactly why. Array is another one, so if I want to do an array, I can select this, I can do array. There are a couple of different kinds, but array linear array. So say I want to make 6. I'm going to make just 1 in the Y, 1 in the Z, and then I would do my spacing. And now I have my array. They're pink until I accept, so I can actually add, maybe I want to make 10. So now I have an array of 10 of these pieces. Again, it does not know, it does not know that these are overlapping, because they're not actually duplicates, they are just overlapped. So if I say exploded those, now I cell dupe. Now I do this. Well, it's going to join some way. Yeah, it made decisions. I don't know what those decisions are about, but I could join them some other way, like this. maybe. And then so these points also, you might not always see those. Sometimes I forget what is the standard. So say I had a some kind of spline. This is, if you don't see the points and you want to see the points, if you're trying to edit your spline or edit your curve, you would do points off or points on. Or get points off. So now I don't. Okay. Points off. Wait. I guess I don't know. Points. Nope. All right. Well, I guess with control curves they always show the points. So maybe I'm just bugging. Yeah, I might have points on by default. I don't really know what's up with that. Anyway, so if you couldn't find the points you wanted them, you could do points on. That is all I'm going to cover for this just sort of brief intro. I hope this helps with navigating around Rhino. And feel free to let me know if there's any specific things you want to learn about with Rhino.